Hello. How is everyone? Good morning. Good morning. Good afternoon to you, Patricia.
Yes, good afternoon. Hi.
Yeah, we're
Good
going to be
morning, Ruth.
talking. Hi. How are you?
Great, thank you.
Good. We're going to be talking about living your magic now, and this conversation started last week, and the three of us have been meeting for a mastermind group for almost a year now. Did you realize it's been almost a year? And
Nope.
we motivate each other each week. And last week we started talking about what it means to live your magic. So, and somebody's got music going on in the background here.
Yeah, that's why I asked if you could hear that. That's okay. Let me move again.
It's okay. That's okay. So, Patricia, I know you've got some opinions on our magic and what we do with it and how we use it, and what do you feel is how do we find our magic?
Well, I guess, I don't want to be too philosophical, but I think that, finding your magic is generally a lifelong process, you know, and, once you're in touch with it, when you lose it, then you know you're out of whack with it and you can go back and work on getting it again. So I would say the best way to do that is really to be able to get to yourself, to figure out some way that you can meditate, pray, or whatever you call it. But you have to be able to silence the inner critic.
Mm.
You have to,
isn't it? That's so critical to silence that inner critic. That's something we don't think about. And it's not that easy to do, to silence the inner critic.
Oh, no, it has a real big mouth.
Mine, I think, has a megaphone, too. I think mine has a megaphone, and it's on loud most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always have a visual when I think of it. I can't remember the name of the movie right now, but there was a visual in this movie where the protagonist is trying to do something, and you can see the inner critic yapping while they're trying to make their move. And you think, wow, that's really what you just turn around and say, like, get away from here. I actually have an exercise where, for people who are really working on this, and one of the things to do is really to address your inner critic and just see. I mean, they cannot hold a logical conversation. All they can do is give you negative, comments. Mm-hmm. So, if you try to have a logical conversation with it, you might find that it's a waste of time, and then you can move on.
I wonder, as you talk, and we've talked about things like this before, I wonder if it's possible to take that inner critic and make it your inner cheerleader. Do you think that's possible, or is that too high in the sky?
Well, I actually think that you can, but I think that that's part of the process of being, silencing that critic, being able to center yourself and to get to your center quickly enough that you can sort of cut it off at the pass. Generally these things, the sort of self-deprecation begins and you can feel it starting, because either you have a physical reaction or like your nerves will give you an indication like this is not going to go good, right? But you generally just succumb to that. You just kind of let it go, I think that with practice, like anything else in life, that you can, sort of just pull yourself by the back and, just kind of bring it down.
Right.
And I love all the things you're saying, Patricia, because in our conversations, we've talked about that mindful practice.
Yes.
Truly each day. And I think that gives us that resilience so that when we do hear that inner critic, that we tap into that mindful practice that centers us, that allows us to come back to, all that is someone else's, my own negative comment. I recognize it and I choose to squash it, or I'll listen to it and then get rid of it. But I think it's that, Ruth and I talk a lot about that, making things a practice part of your everyday life and that mindfulness, that is out there, and that is a part of who we are, our human experience, and that we can choose to let it go, address it, and work through it. So I think, I love what you've said because it's so powerful, and we do have a choice.
Yeah, I think that the idea that one needs a practice, like for some reason, I know you've studied the piano. I've studied the piano. I've studied, a cello. I've studied lots of things in life, but it was really the practice that brought it into reality. And it's the same, for our minds or for anything else that we really want to be able to call on in a short amount of time. And so for me, that's a lifelong practice, Yeah.
Absolutely. And I love the conversation because it truly is a lifelong practice. And you hearken back to something when it comes to, I'll say, those coping skills that we need, that is usually not part of our toolbox as we grow up. But it's something we acquire. I think it's something.
It seems odd though, because you would think that an older person would have practiced it enough that we'd be able to do it, almost without thinking about it.
You bring up a great point.
We've also accumulated a whole lot of voices in our heads too as we go. So it's not just we've got this little tiny bit of information that we're blocking away. We've got this entire universe of experience that's bombarding us from all directions and looking at different options, and that's hard to calm. That's hard to quiet.
And what I see in my practice in working with older adults, I am working through, sometimes it's 70 years of negative self-talk where they haven't discovered their magic.
Right.
And that's their personal journey. And sometimes my job is through a mindful practice to start taking that apart. And that, yes, that was then, this is now. And now with this information, you can move forward, discover that magic, cultivate that magic, and grow this magic in this next part of your life. So I think that's, sometimes our personal experiences each so different.
So you're saying it's never too late to discover your magic?
No, until that last breath. And even in that last breath, if you do discover your magic and are able to then share it, it lives on. I look at our faces here and I think about all the women and men that are reflected in our face. So at any time, if we can make that connection to the magic, it's possible.
So maybe this is what the whole creative aging process is, about. That really, your point, Judy, about living really the best life that you can for as long as you're here is more what aging is about than, all the problems that come with aging for some people.
Absolutely.
That doesn't necessarily describe everybody's experience.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I started my practice in 2008, and one of the quotes that spoke to me then was, "Life is a journey, not a destination." And that came from something that sat on my mother's bureau. She had written that out. And in my mind's eye, I can still see it. And that life's a journey, not a destination. So yes, you may have been on a certain road, and at any age, you can choose to take a new direction. And I think you're absolutely right. Tapping into that in creative aging can be the jumping off point for so many life enriching experiences and relationships. So truly, it's never too late. And that's a shift, I think, for a lot of people.
What did your mother tell you, Ruth? What did your mother tell you?
Oh, my mother told me lots of things like that. She was a woman not of few words. She told me, I think the biggest lesson that I learned from my mother is always leave every place you go better for you being there. And I take that to heart. And I think that's my magic. And I think that's what I've owned as my magic. Are you guys getting an echo on me?
Yes.
Okay, because it's driving me a little crazy. So excuse my non-rhythm in my speaking here. But I think we find our magic and we find what's inside of us by inspiring each other. The three of us have been meeting for about a year, almost every week. We drive each other to look at what's important to us, how our goals are being met, if our goals are really our goals or somebody else's goals. Do you both see this as a way of inspiring other people? Do you think this is something that we could take outside of this and inspire other people to find their magic, push a little bit harder, dig a little bit deeper to see what's already there?
I do. I definitely do. I think there's great value in having a relationship with people that you respect, not just for the life they live, but for their ability to have your best interests, in mind, that you can sort of trust that in the conversation that this is where, I can't remember ever thinking, oh, she's telling me this because she doesn't want me to win. Like, that's not a part of any of the conversations that we've had. And I think that, because we made a commitment to work with each other, that we've actually kind of stuck to it in a way that you don't commit to, say, if you're in a Facebook group.
Right.
Or what have you, So I think there's great value in a mastermind group. I think it's important that people be sort of, I won't say evenly yoked, but I think that people need to be on similar paths, for the kind that we had. Now, if, for example, you have a different kind of, well, no, I think that's true. I feel that way about anyone. It doesn't matter. You really need to have a basis for communicating, and you kind of have to stick to that format,
Yeah, I think one of the main things, one of your main points is if you're going to have a successful, empowering group, whether you call it a mastermind group or whatever you call that, you've got to have that level of trust. And you have to know that you're all working for your highest and best, that nobody's in there. There is no sabotager. I saw this, not big on quotes and memes, but I saw this one that really struck a note with me. And I think it was last week or the week before. And it said, be careful, be sure that no one is drilling a hole in your boat. No one in your boat is drilling a hole. I just botched the crap out of that, but I think you understand what I'm saying. You got to make sure they're drilling holes in your boat. Know your crowd, know your circle, know who you're getting advice from, and make sure that that's not someone who's trying to compete with you or drown your message or try to make themselves feel more important. We've all been part of groups like that where people are trying to boost themselves by knocking others down a little bit. And I think what the three of us do so well is we lift each other and we push each other relentlessly. No doubt about that. There's no candy coating anything in this group, but I think we push each other with respect. We push each other with the best intent. I think that if there were going to be another type of group like this, why we're successful, it's because we lead well. We all lead well. And I think if a group of people who didn't know each other were started by someone who had that inherent trust, it's successful. What do you think about that?
I think you're speaking to the empowerment of others. I think all of us, each of us here, feel empowered by our own magic,
Mm-hmm.
and therefore we have the space to empower each other.
Right.
Because we come from I'll say a strong sense of self. We may not, and I'll say the beauty of the group is that each of us has our own different magic, and that we don't see things the same. So that gives us, we sometimes laugh about having a second and third head, where we have our magic, we feel empowered in our, I'll say, in our own self, and know our self-worth, but then we see ourselves through others' eyes who are equally as empowered. And I think that really strengthens us. And that's that important aspect that you spoke of knowing who you're yoked with, who is on your team, because it truly is a team. And I think we've worked with other teams where someone is the star player and often deferred to. We all have our strengths. And I think that's the power of a strong mastermind, or any group that you truly are seeking support and advice from, because we come from an empowered self.
I do feel that I was able to get a better look at myself by interacting in a mastermind group. Sometimes you don't feel powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you're stuck, and the energy is just not moving in a way that is delivering results, I'll say.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that for me, this past year has been, very rewarding for me to have you guys as mirrors, or, help when I was trying to manage the gap between what and how I see myself and how I was actually showing up.
I think, yeah, and I think another really critical thing that we do for each other. You said mirror, and that reminded me of that inner critic you were talking about. And instead of being that inner critic, we're more like that outer empowerer. And outer empowerers are not the choir. It's not cheerleaders saying, "Oh yes, I love what you're doing. Everything you do is so wonderful." It's, why is this important to you? Why is this meaningful for you? Those are the kind of questions that you ask me that are important to me. It makes me look at my goals and makes me look at really, and what I'm doing right now make this planet better. Am I leaving this place better than I found it? Right? If that's my main goal, if that's my magic, I need to make sure that everything I'm doing leaves the planet better than I found it. And we ask each other those kind of questions.
So what I'm hearing is the magic, the mirroring, and then we talk about empowerment and amplification. Is that the power? Is that, I almost see this as each of us has a spark, a fire. But that the magic of fire, what do we know? It needs to be stoked. It needs to be fed. And I'm thinking that might be how you grow the magic that each of us has. And that might be, again, we each have a different take on how we nurture that. And that might be what creative aging, that might be, I'll say, another way to define creative aging, to take that spark and to nurture it into a flame.
Yeah.
I like the visual on that.
Yeah, the visual is great. I like that too. Makes me sound powerful, right?
Yeah, I was just gonna. We know the power of fire.
Right. No kidding. No kidding.
The power of fire, and then what do we know? The respect of fire.
Right.
Which I think is a great metaphor for capturing that magic.
So
Well, I definitely. So you said your mother had given you the message that you should, that it wasn't about the destination, it was about the journey.
Right.
And Ruth, you said your mom had given you the message to leave a place better than the way you found it. And I would say that, mine would be, my mother always telling me that I needed to get to myself, which is, a way of telling me to know who I was and to, be quiet somewhere so I could understand what it was that was going on in my own mind.
Somewhere till you can understand what's going on in your own mind. Those are really powerful words.
Yeah, well, she didn't know anything about meditation, but she knew about prayer.
Yeah.
And I don't know that she transferred that, but I'm sure that one was just passed down, like go somewhere and be quiet,
I was thinking about this the other day, the difference between meditation and prayer, and it all kind of comes together on a labyrinth. Labyrinths are historically in churches and have been used for spiritual growth. But walking a labyrinth is one of the most powerful meditative practices that you can do. It focuses your attention. It helps you focus your breathing, puts you in touch with your body. So all of those things. So there is that real connection between prayer, meditation, focusing, that quieting your inner voice so that you can hear what you need to hear.
But they're all about being here now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're all about now. They're not, because prayer is not about begging.
Right. That's so critical. Yeah, prayer is not about asking.
So basically, it's all about, again, gathering yourself and being here now. I don't know if there are people who have questions. I'm going to just pop off for 1 second, see if I can win that apartment in Paris. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Put your mind on it.
Yeah.
Put your mind on it.
We'll focus our attention on your intention to get an apartment in France, right?
Yeah. Right back.
Ruth, and there you are. You're back.
Yeah. So, Judy,
yes.
How do you share your message?
Well, when I, in keeping with this vein on meditation and prayer, I really look at it as it doesn't have to be singular. It can be prayer, it can be meditation, it can be singing. And what I hear from Patricia is it's where we gather ourselves.
Right.
And it's what speaks to each of us. And that's that part. And what I emphasize in my classes is that you find something that you connect with, you practice it, and then you rely on that to get you to the next destination. And I often really encourage people to know it doesn't have to be perfect, because that's exactly what a practice is.
Right.
It's a practice. It's a practice.
Right. It's not a mastered event. It's a practice.
Exactly. And for those who, whether it's meditation or dance or singing, it's the act of doing it and the strengthening of that muscle so that you can rely on it when you need it. And that's when, I saw that visual of you walking in the labyrinth. Mm-hmm. And that meditative prayer, but we all need to be able to tap into that. And I think that's another aspect of the magic.
Right.
It doesn't have to, you can,
We joke about, when I named this conversation we were going to have, I named it the what, the why, and the how, because we joke about the fact that you're all about what are you all about?
How. I'm about the how.
You're all about the how. And Patricia, what are you all about?
I'm what?
Yeah, and I'm the why. you know. And I think that that's what makes us strong, the three of us as a unit, is that we wonder in different directions, not wander, but wonder. My wonder comes from, well, gee, I wonder why she feels that way. I wonder why that's important to her. That's the kind of questions that I ask when I look at your big goals. I know, Patricia, that you have aspirations to bring this kind of group to other people. Yes?
I do actually. I had some success this past summer when I launched the inaugural Dream Yourself Awake retreat in Martha's Vineyard, and it's something that I find that I do with friends and associates anyway. I'm sure that you do that as well. People often come to the both of you and want to pick your brain. I don't think either of you have actually set up a formal structure for having your brain picked
For
and,
brain
a-
picking?
and an invoicing structure. I don't think either of you have an invoicing structure for having your brain picked. But, the point really is, I think that if you are someone who has, that elusive gift of creativity, that's how Elizabeth Gilbert described it, the elusive gift of creativity. You're always looking for a way to kind of package it so that you can share it, maybe take it to the next level. And, as you said, Ruth, leave the place better than before. I mean, when you think about all the people who are gifted, and it's just stuck in a bottle somewhere,
Yeah.
because they don't have the benefit of anyone to help them work it out. I'm good at that, maybe not so much so with myself, but I'm really good with other people. So
yeah, but then you surround yourself with people who are good at pulling that out of you, and that makes you better, right?
yeah, absolutely.
I think we all have those other, those distinct roles that we take, where we pull other people up because it feels good to do so, to help people that you care about, and that that it's fun to watch the two of you succeed. Every success that either of you has reflects on me. Because I feel like, wow, maybe I asked a question that pushed that direction or made her think just a little bit harder, or whatever that is, that helps my self-esteem as well. So it's all of those different things.
And what I see Patricia doing is really opening up that champagne bottle. And I don't know if it's because we've had Paris on our mind, but the ability to uncork someone's work. And I love that. Dream yourself awake.
Perfect.
I mean, that's like the magic of champagne, that uncorking, unleashing that power. So I think that's
I'm eager to see where it goes this year, where Dream Yourself Awake goes this year, and what directions you take and where you dig. And I see you excavating further and further into that, Patricia.
Well, I am excited by it. I must say that this proposition, like I see lots of possibility for it and ways to collaborate with others, and that excites me. I mean, I mean, that in and of itself is a kind of magic. If you've got air moving, it makes me really excited.
Yeah. And I don't know how we just killed this whole half hour, but we did.
Yeah. I don't know. I hope we helped someone. We didn't take any questions, but
no, but that's okay. Next time. And I think we're just, we're finding our feet, all of us.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much, both of you. I really appreciate it.
I didn't win.
Oh, no.